Hey everybody, NecroVMX here, and welcome back to another 10 matches of Pokemon Showdown. So let's get right to it. This first match is against Frost 4211. So I start with a dead end lead, and they actually start out with Decidueye, and I just have to say, before anything happens, I'm always forgetting Decidueye is Ghost type, because I think it's so dumb for a starter to evolve into a Ghost type, or even for anything to gain the Ghost typing. Like, what is it, die? I don't get that. So anyway, we're just chipping away at each other here. Leaf Blade there does a lot of damage, but it takes me down to my Patea Berry. I know I'm probably not going to take another Leaf Blade, but I at least am outspeeding it. I decide to get another Hidden Power off. I believe it's Hidden Power Ice. So they go for another Leaf Blade. That's going to take my Deden down. Like Decidueye, why isn't it grass flying? It's clearly a bird. So anyway, I bring out my Roserade. Now I wonder if they're smart enough to swap here. Thinking that I'll do a poison type attacking move, I decide to instead, go ahead and do Toxic Spikes. So, they bring out their Slowking, which of course immediately gets poisoned. And actually, this is actually a viewer of the channel. I just realized that this is the second battle. The first battle, at the worst team imaginable. So I bring my Meowstic F, who's going to take the Psyshock, just a lot better. And I go for the Energy Ball. It does okay damage. Slowking is just very bulky. They went for Scald. They get that critical and the burn. So that sucks, but it's okay. Meowstic F is especially a special attacker, so it's not that big of a deal. I go for Shadow Ball, and that's going to take him out. So that's the Slowking down. I decided to go for the Shadow Ball just in case, instead of Energy Ball, just in case they decided to swap back into Decidueye, which would of course take the Grass type move a lot better. So I swap over to Roserade. They bring in Decidueye, who gets Toxic Poisoned immediately, and I'm like, okay, well Roserade has a setup set, so I'm just going to start setting up spikes like crazy and just see how long I can last. They're not doing a whole lot of damage to me with that Spirit Shackle. I mean, they're doing a lot, but I'm getting a lot back from the Black Sludge. So, that Spirit Shackle takes me down to red health, and I know I'm not going to survive another one, but I only have one more spike to throw out. So now we have 3 spikes and 2 Toxic Spikes. That's pretty great. And then they went for Leaf Blade. I think they assumed that I was going to swap there, but I totally did not swap. So Toxic is starting to rack up. I went for Synthesis. I had expected to sack off the Roserade, but now that we're not doing that, I decide to just start spamming Synthesis so that I could just let the toxic damage rack up, and they might actually go down before me unless they get like a critical or something. So they're continuing to go for Spirit Shackle because that is their best move. I'm going for Synthesis just to make this thing go down to Toxic. So the Roserade, I was originally planning on just getting rid of him. Now they're going for Roost, hopefully to keep around a little longer, but unless you swap, that Toxic just continues to rack up and rack up and rack up. So they realize that, they swap into Wigglytuff, which of course gets immediately Toxic Poison. So I went for Leaf Storm because, I actually knew that they were going to swap there. So I got to pat myself on the back for that one. And I outspeed him, so the second Leaf Storm is going to take out the Wigglytuff. So adios. I feel bad for beating on a Wigglytuff, which is what I said in the chat. So Executor comes in. This is Tallboy Executor from Alola. Arcanine is what I'm going to swap over to. Unfortunately, they start out with Earthquake, so I'm like, oh, well, that just sucks. And this isn't even an Intimidate Arcanine, but they decide to swap out of there to Lumineon, which is fair, because, whatever. I went for Flare Blitz. It does a lot of damage to Lumineon, no joke. I mean, Arcanine's just a beast no matter what. Nothing really wants to take a Flare Blitz from Arcanine unless it's doubly resistant. So I decide to save the Arcanine for later. I go over to Roserade. They actually get a Defog off. I'm wondering if they had Defog, why didn't they swap in earlier? So, that just sucks. So they swap over to Azumarill, using the U-turn there. Unfortunately, they're swapping into a Leaf Storm, and Azumarill is not going to be able to take that, and they just go down. So the problem is they got the Defog off, but Roserade's still around, so I swap into Giratina. They went for Dragon Hammer. The reason I swapped into Giratina because the Executor was already poisoned, and I didn't really want the Roserade to die, so I go for Draco Meteor. Obviously, Executor, being a Dragon type, is not going to be able to take that very well, and he goes down. So it's down to Decidueye and Lumineon. I have my Roserade, my Arcanine, my Giratina, and one other Pokemon. I go for a Shadow Ball there. That takes him down to almost nothing, but he's going to take down my Giratina with Spirit Shackle, so there you go. What's funny is he was giving up. He said, I have no answer to Giratina, and then he easily takes the Giratina down. I bring in the Arcanine, and I go for an Extreme Speed, which was stupid because I'm always forgetting. I told you, I always forget that Decidueye is a ghost type because it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. So I went for Flare Blitz there. That's actually going to do it, and I'm going to go down to the recoil there. So their last Pokemon is Lumineon. Obviously, I'm not going to use the obvious choice. I'm going to go for Salamence. So I bring in Salamence, they have the Lumineon, it's toxic damage, I go ahead and Mega Evolve and go for Double Edge, and that's easily going to take them down, and that's game. This next battle, I'm on the wrong side here, this next battle is versus Mega Edge 76. They start off with Chestnut, really cool Pokemon. I start out with Rampardos. So this is really not a matchup that I want, so I immediately swap out to Doublade. Doublade, of course, has Eviolite. He takes the Leech Seed. So I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks, because Doublade doesn't exactly have a lot of hit points. They're just setting up all over the place. Now they're going for Spike. So I decide to set up a Swords Dance. I know I'm going to lose, more health, but, Doublade's very bulky, even if it doesn't have a lot of health, and I know I can take at least one hit. So since they're continuing to set up, I'm like, all right, I'll go for another Swords Dance. So now I have 3x attack, so that's really cool. I go for Shadow Sneak. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and they're done with Spike, so I figure, well, they have to attack now. They're going to attack now. So they go for Wood Hammer. It's not going to do a lot, obviously, because Doublade resists just about everything. I went for Sacred Sword. It does a lot better damage than Shadow Sneak, but still not the damage I'm looking for. And with the Leech Seed, I know another one isn't going to take Chestnut down, so I'm just kind of really salty about the way this has turned out. I go for Sacred Sword and actually get a higher damage roll, so it actually does a lot of damage there. So they send in Palkia. I'm like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. I go for Shadow Sneak. It takes off more than half of its health, and it clearly doesn't have any kind of recovery, so they go for Fire Blast. That's finally going to take down the Doublade. So I'm like, okay, so I send in Bronzong. He's not affected by spikes, of course. They go for Fire Blast. I'm like, damn, I knew they had Fire Blast, and I still brought in Bronzong, but I wanted to get the Toxic off, so I got the Toxic off, so at least I feel like that's not too bad. I know I can't take another Fire Blast, so I swap into Clawitzer. Of course, I'm getting bodied by spikes, which really sucks. So they obviously went for the Fire Blast. It does nothing to Clawitzer. It has really good defense, and of course resists fire. They went for Spatial Rend. They actually outspeed me. It does okay damage. I went for Ice Beam. It's not quite enough, but they're going to go down to Toxic, so that actually worked out pretty well. So their next Pokemon is Mew. This thing can have anything. You never know what Mew's going to do. We went for Psyshock. I figured I'd just sack off the Clawitzer and just see what Mew's go-to attack was going to be. So I bring in Kecleon, and I went for Fake Out just to flinch him and just get a little chip damage, and it does quite a bit because of the Life Orb, so, that ain't too bad. Unfortunately, it doesn't have leftovers, so that just kind of sucks. They went for Will-O-Wisp to burn the Kecleon, which is really a shame because it's a purely physical Kecleon. I went for Knockoff, which of course becomes Stab because of Protean. It does a lot of damage, gets rid of the leftovers. I figure Kecleon doesn't have a whole lot of utility here because it is burned. They went for Earth Power. Kecleon's a beast and manages to take that, so I'm like, alright, we'll just continue to go for Knockoff. I might actually be able to take out this Mew, which is just crazy. Although I'm not going to take another Earth Power. The burn is what really got me there, so, he goes down. So I bring in Bronzong back in, and they go for Psyshock again. It's not going to do anything to Bronzong, obviously. So I start setting up Light Screen. I just want to go defensive now because I'm not really doing that well, and they're going for Earth Power. I go for Gyro Ball just to take out the Mew. I'm just tired of looking at him. I want him gone. So, in comes Snorlax. Snorlax is, of course, always kind of annoying unless you have a stab fighting type, something that you could use close combat or toxic. I use toxic, close combat, or like cross chop or something. So I get the toxic on it, hoping that it's not a rest Snorlax. They get a crunch off, it almost takes me down, so that I figured they would take me down. So just being able to get that Gyro Ball in there and just get a little bit of chip damage is really helpful, and also helps the toxic rack up some more. Because when you have a really bulky Pokemon like Snorlax and Toxic, you don't want to do a whole lot of switching, especially with spikes in the field. You want to make them work for each kill. But unfortunately, I only have 2 more Pokemon left, and one is the Rampardos. So I bring the Rampardos in, and I went for Crunch. It does really good damage. They went for Earthquake. That also does really good damage. And unfortunately, with those leftovers, they're not going to survive. See, I said unfortunately, and it made you think something else was going to happen. So they bring in Caesar. I know I'm going to get outsped. I figure it's going to have like Bullet Punch or something. It is a Mega Caesar. They actually went for Swords Dance. I'm like, no way. I'm actually going to get attack in. I'd gone for Fire Punch. I thought that they were going to take me out with like Bullet Punch or something. So wow, Rampardos got to kill them. So their last Pokemon is Clefable. I went for Crunch. It does respectable damage. They're going to take me out with Moonblast here, but it's really, I love when it comes down to 1v1 here. They're, a little bit lower health. I'm going to get hit by the spikes. I have a Palkia. So, obviously the Palkia is this, huge legendary beast, but it is a dragon type, and they're a fairy type. So I was like, if this Hydro Pump hits, I win. If it doesn't, I pretty much lost. The Hydro Pump misses. They get me with Moonblast. I actually survived, but I knew it was going to take more than one Hydro Pump to take them out, so I'm going to go down to the second Moonblast, and that is game. So this next battle is versus Bratters. I have a Darkrai lead here, and they're starting out with Tyranitar. So obviously that's going to kick up some sand, and they're going to Mega Evolve instantly into Mega Tyranitar. I went for Focus Blast. I'm really surprised they stayed in because Darkrai often has Focus Mist. They actually went for Dragon Dance. I'm like, oh, well, let's see if we can get it to hit again, or if maybe they'll swap or something. I actually figured they would swap, so I went for Sludge Bomb. So Sludge Bomb is going to take down the Tyranitar. I really thought they were going to swap, but I figured even if they don't, Sludge Bomb is going to be enough to take them out. So they send in Azumarill. I'm like, all right, I can read the writing on the wall, but let's go for Sludge Bomb because it is super effective. I get a lot of damage, and they take them down to their Citrus Berry. They're going for Belly Drum. That's not a good idea because I outspeed them, but I figured maybe it has Aqua Jet or something, but then they go down to the Sandstorm, so I was really worried about getting hit by a 4x damage Aqua Jet, but then, that Sandstorm, that from Tyranitar, that really helps. So Kyurem White comes in. I miss the Focus Mist because, of course, I do, and they get the Toxic off. But I'm like, all right. They're obviously not into swapping because they know what moves I have, so I'm just going to use Focus Mist again. I get the hit. It's a lot of damage. I'm going to go down here soon, so it doesn't matter. Just let the Earth Power take me out, no problem. So even if I survived that, the Toxic would have taken me down pretty easily. So I sent in Blastoise. I'm going to Mega Evolve into Mega Blastoise. They go for Draco Meteor. It does a lot of damage there, and even with that special attack drop, I know I can't take another one, so I decided to Dragon Tail him. We get Sea King. So Sea King's an interesting one you don't see too often. I decided to go for Dark Pulse to see if I can Flinch Axe him. I don't get the Flinch Axe. They're going for Mega Horn, which is interesting. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. I go for Dark Pulse again. It does really good damage again, and I actually get the Flinch that time. So bop boop beep, and he's done. Sea King goes down. So I'm feeling pretty good about Darkrai and Blastoise so far. So they send in Swallow. I figure, well, I'm going to get outsped here. Let's see what they have. They have quick attacks. I'm like, well, you're already faster than me. That was weird. I go for Scald. It does heaps and heaps of damage, and I get the burn. So how cool is that? So, like I said, Darkrai and Blastoise, they may be gone, but not forgotten. They put in a lot of work. So Swallow is on its last legs, but still kind of dangerous. I sent in Bastiodon with the air balloon because I figure his best option is Brave Bird, and he'll kill himself. He decides to swap over to Crocodile. I was actually setting up Stealth Rocks because I expected him to suicide against me. They go for Knockoff. That's going to get rid of the air balloon. I'm like, well, now here comes a ground-type move, right? So I had gone for Toxic. I'm like, okay, well, they're going to use a ground-type move and just get rid of my Bastiodon. So let's swap into Virizion, who's going to take it a lot better. And I was right. They went for Earthquake. That obviously would have just killed Bastiodon outright now that the air balloon was popped. So that was a good swap. It's too bad I didn't have a flying type. So I go for Close Combat. That's easily going to take out the Crocodile. And Bop Boop Beep, he's done. So I really only have to worry about Kyurem and the Swallow. Swallow's on its last legs. It immediately comes in to the spikes, the Stealth Rocks and dies, and then Kyurem comes into the Stealth Rocks and dies. So, that was game. That was a really good one. So this next one is versus Radioactive Man. I don't read the words, I just like it when he punches people. So they have a Crustal lead, and I have Kingdra. This was a very annoying battle. They know they don't want to stay in, so they sent in Credilli. I'd gone for Waterfall anyway. Unfortunately, it is a Storm Drain Credilli, so I just gave it a special attack boost. So I swap over to Outrage, hoping they'll stay in. They're going for Seed Bomb. It is neutral damage, but it's not doing too bad, so I'm like, okay. 2 more Outrages, and I could easily take this Credilli down. So the second Outrage, does pretty good. But then it ends, and I get confused, so I'm like, crap, they're going for Curse. So I'm like, shit. I probably should have just locked myself into Outrage again, which actually, no, I did, but then it does less damage. It only does 24%. Before it was doing close to 40, but now that they're getting these curses up, their defenses, their physical defenses are going up, so it's going to take a lot to get around this Credilli. So I'm just locked into Outrage. Once you lock into Outrage, you can't even swap. You are trapped in, and they have Recover. So I'm like, oh, this is bad, and I can't even swap. So I'm just continually hitting Outrage because I have no other choice. Outrage finally ends. I get confused. The Seed Bomb takes me down to 30% health. So I'm like, well, I could swaps now, so let's do that. I bring in Mean Shao, and they immediately go for Speed Bomb. That's going to take me down to 34% health, so I'm like, please take him out, please take him out. I went for High Jump Kick. It does a lot of damage, but unfortunately their defense is up 2 stages. They went for Recover. I'm like, crap, this is really bad. I'm going to get swept by Cordilli here. So I go for another High Jump Kick, really hoping for a critical. I take him down to 17%. They go for Recover. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll have more PP in High Jump Kick than they have in Recover, but my fear is that eventually, probably before I get a critical, I'm going to miss and take recoil damage. Unfortunately, it didn't even go that long because they went for the Seed Bomb there and take me out. So I'm like, man, if we can bring something out that's fast. I don't have anything that's fast. I have Cladle, but I went for Ice Beam. It manages to outspeed him, and I finally take this Cordilli down, but I feel like I've been through the ringer. So it's actually dead even now, but wow, what a start. So Crustle comes back, and I went for Earthquake. It does nothing. I mean, that's only neutral damage anyway, so I'm just kind of... He's setting up spikes. I'm like, oh, here we go. So let's just get the Toxic on this thing. Crustle's very bulky, and I don't want to swap into, Kingdra would be a better choice, but I really don't want to start swapping now that they're putting spikes out. So I went for another Earthquake. They're going for Stealth Rocks now, so I'm like, okay, they have 2 spikes, they have Stealth Rocks, they can put out 1 more spike, at least the Toxic's racking up. But now, swapping is going to be super dangerous. I don't have anybody that can use Rapid Spin. At least I don't think I did. So they went for Rock Blast, and it hits 5 times, which makes me think that either they got lucky or this is a skill link Crustle, but it doesn't really do any damage, so I'm not really worried about it. They decide to swap out to Medicham. So that's really interesting. I had gone for Psychic, which probably would have ended Crustle. It's neutral damage against Medicham, so it's like, whatever. He's got his Hammer Pants on. So it Mega Evolves into Medicham. They went for Fake Out. That's obviously going to flinch me. I'm getting stressed out just watching this. This is a very stressful battle, and this was only earlier today, so... Unfortunately for me, they have Ice Punch, so that's easily going to take the Cladle down. So I'm like, oh, crap. So I send in Magcargo. Magcargo just really kind of sucks. At least he's not affected by the spikes because he does have a balloon. Unfortunately, that High Jump Kick is going to be more than enough, but the Flame Body gets the burn, which is really kind of the purpose of bringing out the Magcargo. So at least there's that. So the next Pokemon I bring out is Necrozma. This is just normal form Necrozma, nothing special. They went for Zed Headbutt. It doesn't do a lot, but they're obviously hoping to flinch me, and they do get that first flinch. So I'm like, well, at least it doesn't do much. My leftovers take care of most of the damage there. They go for High Jump Kick. It's a little more damage, but at least it's not going to flinch me. So I went for Moonlight because I really wanted to be at full health here. And it seems that the Medicham can't really do much to me, and they swap over to Clefable. So I'm like, okay, well, Clefable can do a lot to me. Unfortunately, I had gone for Calm Mind, so I'm like, well, all right, I guess let's just commit to it. So I go for another Calm Mind, hoping that Clefable's going to hit me with something that's special, because it's raising my special defense. They're going for Calm Minds, too, so I'm like, okay, that's the game we're playing. They go for Moonblast. Thankfully, I take it really well. And with the leftovers, so it's really not much. I go for another Calm Mind, so... I'm kind of wondering, should I stop here or should I keep going? They went for another Moonblast. It does even less damage. It's like 20% as opposed to 25%. I go for another Calm Mind. They go for Moonblast. I'm like, they're really hoping to chip me out here while I'm going for Calm Minds. But I'm wondering why they don't swap. I go for another Moonlight to get my health back. Clearly, I'm going to be as annoying as they were. They went for Fire Blast. Now it's like, okay, they're hoping to burn me. And I don't want to get burned, even though I'm a special attacker. So that's one last Calm Mind. That's going to max me out. They went for another Fire Blast. I'm like, please don't burn. It doesn't burn. I'm not worried about the cut attack. So I go for Stored Power. Obviously, that's going to completely body the Clefable. And here's the thing. Stored Power is a Psychic type move that does more damage based on how many stat ups you have. Since my special attack and special defense are maxed out, it's no problem. So they bring in Deoxys Attack Form, and went for Superpower, but I resist that. Dark Pulse is easily going to take down the Deoxys. So Bapu BP's done. So this went from a very, very annoying battle to much less annoying. So Medicham comes in, the Mega Medicham, they went for Fake Out. It's just chip damage. There's nothing they can really do to me. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't even care. I think I actually got almost all that back from leftovers. They go for Ice Punch. Obviously, there's nothing that it can do. Stored Power is easily going to take the Medicham down. So all we have is Crustle and one last Pokemon to worry about, and Necrozma, he's in full sweeping mode. Crustle has no health. He's got Toxic Poison. I went for Moonlight because I'm not worried about anything this thing can do. Earthquake is probably their best attack on all their Pokemon, but even then it's only 23% health, so I'm like, okay, Stored Power, Bop Boop Beep, Crustle's down. So unless their last Pokemon is something really crazy, there's no way they're going to be able to deal with Necrozma, and I still have Kingdra and one other. So their last Pokemon is Nidoking. They went for Sludge Wave. They don't get the Poison. I get the Stored Power off. Nidoking is weak to Psychic. That's game. So there you go. So a very annoying start, but once I got Necrozma out and got him to set up really well, he became a sweeper, and that was pretty great. This next battle is against somebody who clearly fell asleep on their keyboard when they made their username, so I'm not going to bother trying to say it. They have a Girafarig lead. I have Seaking. I was just saying how you don't see Seaking that often, and there I start with one. So they swap off to Sam the Eagle. I'm going to use Knockoff. That's going to get rid of the leftovers, which is good because Braviary is rather bulky. And speaking of bulky, they're going for Bulk Up to raise their attack and defense. So I go for Ice Beam. It is a special attack. Like I said, Braviary is just super bulky. They go for Super Power, and that's going to negate their stat ups, and I took it pretty well. So Ice Beam, Bop Boop Beat, down goes Sam the Eagle. So they bring in Girafarig. I'm not super worried about this thing. It starts setting up a nasty plot, so clearly this person's very into setting up. I went for Knockoff. It's really very effective, and I got rid of the leftovers. They went for Hyper Voice. That's interesting. They have Hyper Voice on Girafarig, and I go down. So I bring in Clink Clang because I know he doesn't have to worry about Hyper Voice that much. I go into Shift Gear to raise my speed and my attack. He went for Thunderbolt. It does more than half my health, but now I know I'm absolutely going to outspeed the Girafarig, and we can start just gear grinding. So I gear grind the Girafarig. So I'm thinking, well, unless they have something that could really just tank a gear grind, which is a 2-hit Steel-type move, and my attack is up, this is going to be Bop Boop Beep. So unfortunately, they do have something. They have Rotom, which easily tanks the gear grind. It only does 10% health. They use Trick. I wind up getting Choice Specs, and they get my leftovers. So that's really interesting. Of course, I'm actually not that bothered with getting Choice Specs. I went for Return. Now it's boosted by the Choice Sticks. Choice Specs, it does a lot of damage. They went for Thunderbolt. They no longer have their Choice Specs, so it's not going to do the damage that it would have done earlier. So now I decide to swap into Terrakion. So Terrakion, I'm not Terrakion's going into the Return. That's no big deal. Obviously, they're going to resist that, but I'm not feeling too badly about this, so I decide to swap to Medicham. Hammer Pants are out. It's hammer time. They'd gone for Stealth Rock, so that was a good time to swap before the Stealth Rocks were out. So I'm going to Mega Evolve into, going from regular hammer to MC Hammer. Stone Edge gets a critical, but it's not a lot of damage anyway. High Jump Kick is going to absolutely body the Terrakion. He goes down, so I'm feeling pretty confident about this one. Rotom comes back in. This is Rotom Wash, by the way. He went for Fake Out, but... no, I went for Fake Out. That was actually a misclick. Obviously, that's not going to work. They got me with the Hydro Pump. But it missed, so that was basically a waste. Zen Headbutt is going to take Rotom Wash out, and they send in Mighty Ina, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm part fighting type, right? So they get the Sucker Punch off. It's not enough to take me down. High Jump Kick is easily going to send this doggo to the moon, so Bop Boop Beep, he's done. They have one more Pokemon. It's Barbaracle, so I'm like, oh, okay, I can handle this. Unfortunately, I missed with High Jump Kick, so I'm going to go down to the Recoil. High Jump Kick is different from other Recoil moves. Usually, with Recoil moves, you hit, and then you take Recoil damage. With High Jump Kick, you only take the recoil damage if you don't hit, but it's massive. So I sent in Crabominable. They got off a Shell Smash with the White Herb. They're going to really nail me with Liquidation, which sucks because now my defense is down, but I get the Close Combat in, and that's game. So there you go. And I still had Clink Clang and 2 more Pokemon. So this next one is versus Jason Roof. Raising the roof there, I sent out Togekiss, and they sent out Primarina, and I'm like, okay, Togekiss is a really great Pokemon. We're going to start with the Air Slash, see if I can get a flinch. I get the flinch. That's awesome. Air Slash has a 30% chance of flinching. I get enough for another Air Slash, and I get another flinch. That's amazing. I know the salt is real. The salt must flow. The next Air Slash is a critical hit, and I get a flinch, so... This poor Primarina, I feel so bad. It's a starter. It's just this really great Pokemon. It didn't get to do anything. And Togekiss is just troll face smiling all the way. So in comes Kyurem, and I'm like, well, let's see what happens. They outspeed me. They get me with Ice Beam, so I'm like, okay. I had gone for Thunder Wave because I'm like, well, now I can outspeed it. I'm down in health, but my leftovers will bring me back eventually. And if now I can Power Flinch, so I'll go for Air Slash. Will I get the flinch? No, I don't get it that time, unfortunately. They get off Ice Beam. That's going to kill Togekiss, but he took out one Pokemon, wounded another, and paralyzed it. I bring an Arcanine. They swap over to Aromatisse. I'm like, oh, well, I really don't like Aromatisse, so they're swapping into close combat, which obviously is not going to do a whole lot of damage. Like I said, I really don't like Aromatisse. It's just a creepy Pokemon. I decided to swap over to Ho-Oh. You're thinking, one fire Pokemon to another? Well, I just wanted Arcanine to get his stats back from close combat. So Ho-Oh, I'm obviously going to go for Sacred Fire. Even if it doesn't do a lot of damage, it is a 50% chance of a burn, and I do get the burn, and the damage wasn't bad. So they set up Light Screen, so I'm like, okay. So they probably also have Reflect, so they're probably just going to do that. I decided to start going for Earthquake. They went for Aromatherapy. That's going to get rid of their burn, but I'm like, also got rid of Kyurem's Paralysis, so that's really annoying. So they went for Protect on this turn. I don't really know why. I guess just try and get a little bit more leftovers back. So obviously my Sacred Fire isn't going to do shit. So the next Sacred Fire is going to take them out. So that was really an exercise in futility. There was no way they were going to survive another Sacred Fire. So in comes Dugtrio. I decided to swap over to Lilligant because I figured they might have like a Rock-type move. I was right. Here comes Stone Edge. Because Stone Edge is absolutely going to destroy Ho-Oh. I can't stand for that, even though it misses often. So they swap over to Toucannon, and I'm like, well, that's interesting. They're going to take the Petal Dance, not that badly, honestly. And I'm like, okay, well, this thing probably has Beak Blast, but let me see what I can do to it. They set up the Beak Blast, so that's no surprise at all. I went for another Petal Dance. I know I'm going down here, so, whatever. It's no big deal. I just figured to get some damage off on the Toucannon. I got more than half its health off, so I don't feel too badly about that. It's basically dead even. It's 4v4. I send in Electivire. I think, well, they're going to swap, right? They don't swap. If I had known, I thought they're definitely going to swap. That's why I went for Earthquake. Like, why would you stay in for Electivire? So I'm like, okay, clearly they're not a swapper. They're not going to swap out. They probably think I'm an idiot who goes for Earthquake against a flying type. So I went for Volt Switch. That's obviously going to body the Toucannon. I should have done that in the first turn, but I think of, wow, they see an electric type, like, Electivire coming in. They're going to swap. So I send an Arcanine, they send in Dugtrio. They went for Stone Edge. It gets that critical. Arcanine's not double weak like Ho-Oh is, so he manages to take it. I get the close combat off. Unfortunately, it doesn't take them out, and I'm going to go down on my life orb, but at least I got him down to almost no health. My last Pokemon is Frostlass. They went for Sucker Punch. I kind of figured they weren't going to swap, because obviously they're not that type of person. Ice Beam is easily going to take it down. So I have Electivire, Frostlass, and Ho-Oh. They have Kyurem and one other Pokemon that I haven't seen. They sent it in, and it's Beware. Beware is actually a really great Pokemon. I decided to Thunder Wave it immediately just so I can outspeed. They went for Shadow Claw. I thankfully survived that. So I'm like, well, now I'm going to outspeed it. I go for Ice Beam. It's not the damage I'm looking for. Thankfully, they get fully paralyzed, so I'm not going to go down on this turn. So, Ice Beam is still just my best choice. I go for it again, and they get paralyzed again. Can you believe it? So first they had like the complete flinch hacks against their Primarina, and now they got paralyzed twice in a row, so their Beware. It really didn't get to do much. I got to hit my Frostlass once, and that's because I went for Thunder Wave. So in comes Kyurem. And obviously, I'm going to get bodied by Focus Blast, right? No, of course not. I'm immune to that. What are you doing, dude? Frostlass is Ghost type. I don't think they realized that. I think they were thinking, well, it evolves from Snorunt like Glalie does, so it's a single type Ice type. It's actually Ghost type. So I got the Thunder Wave off, and really, I don't have much I can do to it other than Ice Beam. They decide to forfeit. I guess they knew that, even if they take down my Frostlass, they still had to deal with Electivire and Ho-Oh, so it was pretty much a lost case on that. So this is the last battle. This is another one against Zane886, the guy from the last video. He has a Mesprit lead. I have Wailords. This is really interesting. So, this was supposed to be in the last video. It somehow didn't wind up in the video, so this is just an extra one that didn't wind up in there. So this was somewhere in the middle. So they went for Psyshock, I went for Hydro Pump, they swap into Roserade, which would have taken that better, except I missed anyway, so I'm like, well, here comes a Grass-type move. I swap into Caesar. They gone for Giga Drain, so that's a good thing, because he does double resist it. So, I'm going to Mega Evolve into Mega Caesar here. He goes for Hidden Power. Oh, that had to have been Hidden Power Fire. It had to have been. There's no way that was anything but Hidden Power Fire. So I sent an Electivire, and there's Electivire again. I went for Flamethrower. It doesn't quite take him out. So they went for Sludge Bomb. That does pretty good damage. In comes Rayquaza. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You don't see Mega Rayquaza on this very... Oh, you know what? Actually, you know what? You guys, this was in the last video. I remember that whole Rayquaza moment. Okay, never mind. Okay. You know what it was? It wasn't that it was supposed to be in the last video. It was that I never closed the tab. Okay, so here's the real last one. This is versus MTZS78D. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's their bra size. So here we go. I have Gyarados lead. They have Vespiquen. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let's see what happens here. So I decided to go for Waterfall. I believe this is a Mega Gyarados, but I decide to not... go for that because I don't want to be a dark type. Vespiquen is a bug type, so if it hits me with like attack order, Mega Gyarados is going to get really hurt by that. So I don't want to be weak to bug types. But in fact, Gyarados in his regular form is strong against bug types. So they get the Toxic off. They swap over to Maractus. They have Storm Drain, so that just kind of sucks. And the Toxic is doing its work. So I'm like, well, now that there's not a bug type, we can actually Mega Evolve into Mega Gyarados. They went for Sucker Punch, and now I resist that. So that's great. So I'm going to get them with the Crunch. That does really good damage. So that was just a great play, waiting to Mega Evolve the Gyarados. You don't always want to do it right away. So they bring in Tapu Koko, and I'm thinking, well, let's hit it with Earthquake. I can probably, hurt it a lot. And even though I'm only single weak to electric type moves, I'm toxic poisoned. I got very little health. So they get the Volt Switch off. I know Gyarados was going to go down there anyway. They swap into Scolipede. Scolipede's a really cool Pokemon. I send in Blacephalon. I'm thinking, okay, this can be a thing. They go behind their substitute. I'm like, here we go with the substitutes, right? So I go for Fire Blast. Obviously, it's going to get rid of the sub. I think they were just trying to get a speed boost off. They're just trying to, live as long as possible, get the speed boost. And then they decide to pass the baton over to Banette. Banette's going to take the Fire Blast pretty badly. So I'm thinking, I wonder, what the problem is, what they're doing. They have Destiny Bond, Side Gun for Shadow Ball. Obviously, that's going to take the Banette down, but Destiny Bond's going to take down my Blacephalon. And honestly, I think it's worth it to sack off a Pokemon like Banette to get rid of an Ultra Beast, annoying-ass Pokemon like Blacephalon. So I send in Spiritomb, and out comes their Scolipede. I went for Shadow Sneak. Let's see what they're going to do. They're going to do Substitute. There's a Shock, so they're going to get a Speed Boost from their ability. So I'm like, oh, here we go, Speed Boost, Baton Pass. I went for another Shadow Sneak. Here's the thing, Spiritomb has the Infiltrator ability, so he goes right through the Substitute. So obviously, even if they Baton Passed, they Baton Pass with, which is what they do, they Baton Pass. Oh, actually, they just straight up swap to Chansey. They didn't even try Baton Pass. So Chansey comes in. It's going to paralyze me with Thunder Wave. I'm going to burn it with Will-O-Wisp. So we both put status on each other. So that's great. So yeah, I was thinking even if they did that, I'm Infiltrator, so no big deal. So I swap over to Bastiodon. They went for Wish. I'm like, oh, that's you're not even that hurt, and you're going for Wish, or are they going to swap? So I go for Rock Blast. This is a Skill Link this is not a Skill Link Bastiodon, rather. They went for Counter there. I didn't do a lot of damage, so they didn't do a lot of damage. They're going to get all their health back from Wish anyway, and take just a little bit of chip damage. So thankfully they missed on the Thunder Wave there, because I really don't want them to paralyze everybody. I decided to get this Chansey the hell out of there. And it doesn't look like it's a natural cure Chansey, because I didn't get the message for it anyway. So Vespiquen comes in and goes for Attack Order. Obviously that's not going to bother me. I go for Rock Blast. I'm like, please hit more than twice. Please hit more than twice. I get enough hits to take the Vespiquen down. How annoying. So in comes Maractus. I'm like, okay. Alright, let's see what happens. I go for Protect just to sort of scout out and see what they have. It's Giga Drain. Bastiodon is not going to be able to take a Giga Drain, so I swap over to Meganium. So they went for another Giga Drain, obviously hoping that I would be stupid enough to stay in. Obviously, I'm not stupid enough to stay in. Sometimes I stay in and it seems like a stupid thing, but it's for a reason. So I went for Aromatherapy that's going to cure Spiritomb of his paralysis. They went for Hidden Power. It could have been anything. Hidden Power, Fire, Flying, Bug, Ice. It could have been a bunch of things. So I go for Toxic. It doesn't have a lot of health, but it's obviously pretty bulky. They got that hidden power off again. I'm not going to be able to take another one of those, even with the leftovers, because it's doing like 40% damage. But then they swap over to Chansey, so I'm like, oh, okay, I had gone for Synthesis anyway, just in case they did swap or, did something different. So here's Chansey. I went for Giga Drain. I'm going to speed this part up because this just takes forever. So they get the Thunder Wave off on me. I go for Aromatherapy. So they go for Counter. Obviously that didn't work. So I went for Toxic again. So I guess it is a natural cure. It didn't give me the little pop-up thing that said, oh, natural cure. So I put the Toxic up again because I figure, well, he'll have to either swap or go down. That's the only two choices that Chansey has. They're going for Wish, so I'm thinking they'll probably swap and heal somebody else. But they're going for Counter. The Wish comes true. Like, okay, Toxic's really starting to rack up. They go back into Scolipede. Scolipede is immediately going to go down. Tapu Koko comes in. So I'm like, okay. They went for Wild Charge. That's not going to do a whole lot of anything. So I'm not really worried about that. And then the Giga Drain's going to easily take the Tapu Koko down. So I have the Maractus to worry about and the Chansey. So I'm thinking, well, if they send in the Chansey first, I know it's going to swap. So, but then they bring in Maractus. So Maractus is on his last legs. I just go for Synthesis. I'm going to let the Toxic take this thing out. I know it has hidden power. I know that hurts a lot, but I'm just going to just constantly use Synthesis until the Toxic takes it out, and then all we have to do is worry about the Chansey. So then I can put Toxic on the Chansey. It can't get Natural Cure anymore because it is the last Pokemon, and I could just wait it out. I know he has Soft Boiled, because as you see, he just healed himself fully, and he has Wish, so he has Toxic, Healing Wish, and it's a stally Chansey. They timed out, and that's going to be it. So yeah, I'll see you guys real soon with more content.